Court is expected to hand down a decision this week. This is the decades-long water war between Georgia and Florida.
Developing tonight, the U.S. Supreme Court just heard final arguments in Florida's long-running...
This afternoon, a judge ruled in Georgia's favor in the decades-long water war.
In this decision, the U.S. Supreme Court sides with Georgia.
The record drought in the southeast is turning into a three-state water
reaction to this decision. John, well, Fred, it is too
down the Chattahoochee and Appalachian River basins. Water Georgia and Metro Atlanta says it desperately needs. Florida believes a lack of water is catastrophic.
This yesterday, the Secretary of Commerce.
The Chattahoochee River starts in the mountains near the small town of Helen, Georgia. As it grows from trickles and streams, it passes through the canyons and valleys it's carved through millennia, passing through the heart of Helen. The river is vital for the small community of 531 people, which relies on tourists from Atlanta coming to see the town and the river. Further downstream, the situation is different. The river is vital for the fast-growing city, as it provides 60% of Atlanta's drinking water through sites like the Hemp Hill Water Treatment Plant, where tens of millions of gallons of water are processed every day.
We have received numerous awards in this. You will see the GAWP, which is the Georgia Association of Water Professionals. 16-time departmental award winner. One of our operators, Mr. Mike Woods, was named the Plant Operator of the Year in 2016. In 2017, the City of Atlanta completed quality of drinking water and water. In addition, we won again in 2019, and we also got the Municipal Leadership Award for the Better Buildings Challenge in addition to that.
And just north of the city, along the Chattahoochee, lies the Buford Dam, which supplies much of the city's power and creates Lake Lanier, a destination for Atlanta residents who enjoy weekends on the lake. The massive reservoir is 26 miles long and 200 feet deep, and shields Atlanta from drought and protects the city from floods. There have been concerns, however, over the dam's ecological impact. And a National Parks report stated that the dam created an opposite flow and an increase in invasive species and fish kills.
As the river flows down from the mountains and hills of North Georgia, it crosses what's called the fall line, where the riverbed softens and changes to sedimentary rock. This is important not only for making the border between the coastal plain and the Piedmont Hills, but also for being the farthest up the river a boat can travel without facing rapids or waterfalls. For the Chattahoochee, this lies in the city of Columbus. In recent years, the city has capitalized on its rapids, hosting major tournaments and spending millions on expanding the course. The river is also vital for Columbus, bringing in business and tourists who flock to the city, and gives the many people who work at the nearby Fort Benning something to do.
And now, with the advent of the whitewater, we're sort of a destination spot even for tourists now.
Moving east to the Flint River, the city of Albany is the location of the Flint River Aquarium as well as the Flint River Keeper, who have worked tirelessly to protect the river from damming and pollution. Despite their efforts, a 2008 draft of the Atlanta Water Supply Plan called for 2 dams on the Flint River by 2035, and the Flint was listed as the United States' second most endangered river. This all poses a high risk to the many species who call the river and the surrounding wetlands their home. Further south, cotton, peanuts, and corn blanket the earth. We went to visit the Longleaf Ridge Farm and spoke with the owner.
My name is Casey Cox-Kerr. I'm a farmer in Mitchell County, Georgia, on the Flint River.
Southern Georgia is blessed with a system of aquifers which for many years have been used. In efforts to conserve the water, the Georgia government has banned the use of the shallower surficial and Floridan aquifers, and all new wells need to be dug into the deeper Claiborne aquifer, which lies 200 feet below the surface.
The one that's the easiest for us to get to. It's probably only 20 feet below the surface where we are right now. That one is, you cannot drill into that one right now if you are within the Flint River Basin, lower Flint River Basin. But you can drill down into the Claiborne Aquifer, which is the deeper aquifer. So that's a difference of drilling maybe 200 feet versus 800 feet. And cost-wise, a difference of $40,000 to $50,000 versus $250,000 to $300,000. So most farmers, some farmers can afford to drill and go into that deeper aquifer, but for most farmers, it's too cost prohibitive to consider that.
You mentioned how you lived here for much of your life. Does the river have a personal connection to you?
Very much. The river is, my dad will always say that the river is part of our soul here. And it's true. I mean, I grew up and I didn't realize how special it was. And like I said, I had no intention of coming back to the farm when I left and graduated from high school. I didn't think I would wind up back here, but I think being gone for a little while and gaining some time and perspective away from the farm and the river made me realize what a special place it was. And I've just fallen in love with it all over again, being back home after college. And it's just been, it's just something that's really important to me. And it motivates me. Growing up here on the river and being here now and seeing how important it is what really motivates me to continue conservation efforts as much as possible.
Finally, the river makes its way into Florida. As the river flows, it spreads out into a massive wetland and an essential estuary for various wildlife. As the river enters Apalachicola Bay, the mix of salt and freshwater makes it an ideal habitat for oysters. The city of Apalachicola is home to one of the most prolific oyster and seafood industries in the United States, supplying 90% of Florida's oysters.
Yeah, it's a very diverse river. There's a lot going on. It's partly because it's so productive. And it's so productive because it has so much energy in it. When I say energy, I mean all the biomass that goes into this river and ends up in the bay itself. Real driver of the seafood industry, which culturally, economically is a really important part of coastal communities in Florida.
In 2011 and 2012, an unprecedented mega drought hit the United States southeast hard, and the freshwater levels in the Apalachicola River plummeted, allowing for salinity levels in the bay to rise. The rise in salinity and the lack of fresh water had devastating effects on the local ecosystem and industry. In 2013, the oyster population suffered a catastrophic collapse. As the once prolific oyster beds of the Apalachicola ran dry, the seafood industry was left reeling. The oyster populations had never recovered. And in 2020, Apalachicola banned oyster harvesting in a last-ditch effort to let the oysters recover.
The one that we had back in 2011 really crushed Apalachicola Bay. Yeah, we basically didn't have any oysters left. There's some arguments about some other reasons that was the case, but we had a higher salinity, which greatly affected the ecology. Eat oysters, so the population just was decimated. Basically, couldn't catch any more oysters. I play in a band, and we wrote an original song called "There's Just Four," and it talks about how we used to see lots and lots of boats on that bay, and one day there was just four.
After the total collapse of the cornerstone Apalachicola oyster industry, causing catastrophic damage to the local ecosystem and devastating the economy, Florida immediately filed suit against Georgia for water overuse in 2013. Following the court case, Special Master Paul Kelly submitted an 81-page report detailing how the issue is far more complex than simple water usage. Kelly found that the oyster crash stemmed from multiple issues, including the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, Florida's failure to reshell, and oyster overharvesting. Furthermore, Kelly also found that Georgia's water overuse had limited contributions towards the low water levels in the Apalachicola River, and instead blamed the collapse on the prolonged drought, climate change, and changing rainfall patterns. Exceptions were overruled, case dismissed.
From the misty and mountainous headwaters of Helen to the vibrant ecosystems of the Apalachicola, the ACF watershed connects seemingly distant places and supports industries and economies. Throughout the South, people depend and rely on water for drinking, business, industry, and farming. And when the river runs dry, people lose their livelihoods. The river is the lifeblood of the Southeast. In light of recent events, protecting and conserving the priceless natural resource of water seems more important than ever, because water is not limitless. In the next 20 years, the Georgia agricultural industry is projected to bloom, and Atlanta's population will increase by 50%. We must know and find a balance between all who use the watershed and learn to conserve now, before it is too late.